Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Office Drama 24 Unfiltered podcast, the show that dares to explore outrageous and offensive office behavior. This show is for all of us who have experienced real-life office drama. This is your outlet to share anonymously. I'm your host, Mary B. I have over 20 years' experience as a hiring manager, supervisor, and leader in one of the most complex organizations in the world. Let's get this drama started. Last week, I stated that we were going to talk about the invisible manager. Well, I decided to kind of reshuffle things a little bit and save that for another day. This week, we're going to talk about micromanagement, everyone's favorite topic, the topic that most employees groan when just hearing that word. Yep, we're going to talk about those bosses who breathe down your neck, check every email you send, and demand updates every 5 minutes. Does that sound familiar? Well, have a seat because we're not just going to vent about it. We're going to tackle it head on. Let's talk about why it happens and how it affects us and what we can actually do about it. Way back in the day when I got my first job, it was an accounting clerk. I mean, it wasn't that glamorous, but it was a nice office job. So let's start with how micromanagement feels when you're on the receiving end. He or she needs to guide your every step. It's exhausting, right? Here's what it looks like. Constant interruptions. You're in the middle of focusing, and boom, there's the boss asking for a status update. Again. Nitpicking. You're in the draft phase, and your boss is more concerned about the font size of your PowerPoint than the actual content. Then there's the lack of trust. It's clear they don't believe you can handle the work without their input. And what happens as a result of that? It can really take a toll on your mental health and productivity. Employees often feel frustrated, demoralized, and burnt out. If you ever felt like screaming, "Just let me do my job," you're not alone. At my first job, once the new employee orientation day was over and I was assigned a desk, phone, and introduced to the employees, the training started. The lead woman in the office was my trainer. She has been part of the staff for years and a trusted employee. She was the boss's right-hand man. She seemed nice enough, but what did I know? I was ignorant to the office politics, gossip, and favoritism. I remember my job was to ensure the accounting data was keyed in the system and correct. Someone would run the report. I would check the data entered for accuracy against the source documents. This was a super repetitive and not in the least bit exciting or interesting. My new supervisor would review my work daily at 3 o'clock. She would offer zero advice on how to improve and provided zero encouragement. I mean, it's not that I had to be coddled like I'm a little baby or something, but you're at a new job. A little encouragement would go a long way with a new employee. Imagine your supervisor just painting your work red in your first week of the job and delivering the feedback without even looking up from her desk. It was at that moment I thought, what in the hell is this? And what kind of training is this? Even as the lowest man on the totem pole, I knew I would never train anyone or talk down to a person new to a job. I knew there was something off about her. As a trainee, you would think that there would be some time to give the employee adjustment, to get acclimated to the new processes. The job was entry level. I got the biggest awakening ever. There is no way I'm going to stick around for this type of treatment. Absolutely not. It's just not in my DNA. Can't do it. I would like to think most micromanagers don't wake up in the morning thinking, I want to annoy my team today. The experts say it often comes from insecurity or a lack of confidence in their own leadership. Maybe they feel pressure from the higher-ups or they're afraid of failure, so they try to control every little detail to avoid mistakes. In some cases, they might just have a hard time letting go of control. But here's the twist. Sometimes micromanagement isn't about you. It's about them and their need for control. Absolutely, control. Not only did she have major control issues, she carried that control to other aspects of the office. Let me tell you how disgusting this person was, how off the rails she was. We all started work at 7:30, and at 7:29, she would leave her cubicle to make sure everyone was working. Now, working at your desk. Now, remember, work started at 7:30. She starts her rounds at 7:29. You couldn't be sitting at your desk putting your purse away, or turning on your computer, or putting your coffee cup down, or speaking to your neighbor. No, you had to be working. Not only was she a micromanaging queen, she was also a control freak. Oh my God, it was horrible. Oh, and we're not done with that. Let's talk about lunchtime. Lunch was from 12 to 12:30. At 12:29, she would leave her office, walk up the aisle with her little clickety-clack high heels, and make sure everyone was at their desk, not eating, not drinking, but you had to be working. Lunchtime was over. This lady was such a control freak. We were all just in total disbelief. It was like, is this for real? Or are we working in a twilight zone? This can't be the norm. As you can probably figure out by now, my excitement for the new job quickly diminished. Micromanagement can mess with employees in so many ways. Let's talk about a couple of those ways. Stress and anxiety. Constant scrutiny can make you feel like you're on the edge, like you can't make a single move without being judged. That is exactly what happened with me in my position. You have a loss of confidence. If someone's always questioning your work, you start to doubt yourself. Decreased creativity. Let's be real. When you're micromanaged, there's no room to innovate because you're too focused on meeting every tiny demand of that crazy supervisor. If a job feels suffocating, what are you going to do? You're going to leave. End of story. HR experts report it's not just bad for employees, it's also bad for bosses. It wastes their time and limits team growth. An employee on the receiving end of being micromanaged does not give a shit or have any sympathy for what the boss goes through. I know employees are worried about their own sanity. I was at that job for just over a year. I got the skills that I needed to move on. And once I got those skills, I was out. O-U-T, out. Bye. What can you actually do if you're stuck with a micromanager? Here's some tips from the experts. Build trust proactively. Keep them updated before they ask. Send quick, clear status updates regularly to show that you've got things under control. During meetings, ask, how often do you want updates? Or what level of detail do you need? This may stop the constant check-in. Offer solutions. If they nitpick, acknowledge their concerns and suggest how you'll address them going forward. Lots of supervisors are like, they're so nitpicky, they don't want to hear anything you say. They are such control freaks, they want it their way or no way. Have a candid conversation. Once you build some rapport, gently bring it up. You could say, I've noticed you like to stay involved in all the details. How can I give you confidence that I've got things handled? Yeah, you can do that, but I wouldn't. There's no way. If you run into a boss that's been in that institution for years and years and years, and you're new, guess what? They're not going to care about what your problems are. They're going to go and side with the boss that has the reputation, that has the years, that has the know-how. They're not going to worry about you. Unless that boss that you have, their behavior is totally egregious, law-breaking, just craziness. They go off the rails. Chances are they're not going to stand by you. They're going to stand by that boss. You're new. You could be sensitive. You could be thin-skinned. You haven't produced enough for them to stand by you. For all you know, your boss and HR could be best friends. Most new employees don't understand that management is going to stand by management. You can also focus on what you can control. Sometimes you just can't change their behavior. In that case, focus on your work and don't let their habits define your self-worth. At the end of the day, managing up is a skill and you're not powerless. I think the best takeaway of this discussion today is just to remember you are not powerless. You don't have to stay at that job. But what you can do is you can take all the information that you need, use that as leverage to find another job. I mean, I've never left a job without first having one. Well, actually, I have, but that's a different story. A story for another time. Lots of people stick with being in a terrible job because they feel like they can't move on and do something else. Well, you just got to have the courage and have the wherewithal to start working on your resume, start networking, get out there and apply, and get out of that situation. 9 times out of 10, that boss is not going to change. The only one that needs to change is going to be you. That's it for today's episode. Micromanagement is tough, but with the right approach, you can manage it without losing your sanity. And if you're a boss listening to this, maybe take a step back and think about whether you're empowering your team or just making their jobs harder. Thanks for tuning in to Office Drama 24 Unfiltered. Tune in next week. I will share my perspective and personal experiences as a supervisor accused of micromanaging. Until next week, keep it real and keep it productive. If you've got a work story, comments, or topics you want me to cover, drop me a message at officedrama24@gmail.com.